I know a lot of people have lost their jobs this year. And if your job loss was unexpected, chances are you didn't have a job search strategy in place. And job search can be stressful, but with the right strategies, it doesn't have to be. Hi, this is Diana Bernal. I'm a career strategist and host of Corner Office Latinas. Now, this episode is for anyone who needs help looking for a job right now. So please forward to any friend who might need it. And maybe you have already started applying and aren't seeing results. No interviews, no calls, and certainly no offers. And maybe you're worried about how are you going to stand out and get noticed and what your options really are. So today, I want to break down job search into 3 strategies that help you get clear on your goals and options, focus on the right openings, and develop your personal action plan. Because once you have an understanding of these strategies and how they fit together, then everything will start falling into place and you'll get that momentum going. Before we start, if you have more time to devote to your job search, you might want to check out our group career coaching workshops. They're starting up on Zoom so you can participate from anywhere. Information is at cornerofficelatinas.com, where we're starting new live sessions where you can get personalized support and go into these strategies more in depth. But if you just need a quick overview of the strategies to get your job search going, let's jump in. Okay, understandably, our emotions around job loss can make it really hard to see a path forward. And whatever feelings you have, anger, fear, frustration, they are valid, so go ahead and vent, lean on friends and family, and do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. What I want to do today is make this process manageable and break down these job search steps into 3 strategies to help you focus and take not just any action, but the right action to land a job. And by the way, my first step is not about your resume. We'll get to that later. Strategy number 1 is to get clear on your options. Now, this involves 2 different elements, your finances and your stage in life. Now, your first step is to assess your finances. I know that makes a lot of sense, right? You have to figure out how much money you have and how long you're going to be able to search for a job. So if you have 6 months of savings, good for you. This means that perhaps you can take some more time to focus and hold out for that right job without settling. Now, if you have closer to 3 to 5 months, you can still be in good shape, but it might get tough down the road because statistics tell us that it often takes 3 months to find a job, and the more money you make, the longer that could take. If you have 0 savings or less than 3 months, we got to get busy. So if money is going to be an issue, there is certainly a lot to consider. Think of your backup plans. Would you have to move? And if so, who could you stay with? Are you eligible for unemployment? Have you already started that? You might want to consider some part-time or contract work, not just for the money, but for the feeling of purpose and staying connected. That's not a bad thing to do either, especially if you can take on contract work that might help open doors to a permanent role somewhere. Now, the second element here is really looking at what stage of life you're in. Are you just out of college with only 2 to 3 years and you have lots of different options eventually? Or have your kids just entered college, you have a mortgage, and maybe you're close to retirement and you've got to think, is this my last job or my second to last job? So really thinking through your finances and that stage in life can help you decide what options you have. Because the longer your financial cushion, the more flexibility you have on what you can take and how long you can hold out for that great job. And of course, the shorter that financial cushion, the more you may need to focus on the here and now. Now, in any of these situations, you might want to consider a transitional job. That is where you take a job that's okay, it's not your ideal, but it helps you get through this next phase. And you can spend your spare time figuring out what you want to do next. Maybe you wanted to move or pursue grad school, but you hadn't quite figured that out yet. Or maybe there's lots going on in your personal life. It's okay to give yourself permission to take a job, make some money, stay connected, and then give yourself some breathing room to make that next big decision. And if you can stick it out for a year, it won't look jumpy on your resume. Now, once you have a sense of your options and how long you can search, you can then move into strategy number 2, which is to target your job search. And one of the best and most fun ways that I can think of that is to draw your Venn diagram. Remember the 3 overlapping circles? So you're going to want to look at your skills and your interests and the market for these things so you can target your resume and your materials. So, what are those key skills that someone is going to pay you for? Are you an accountant? Are you an engineer? Are you a writer? Now, based on your options from strategy 1, you might consider, is this the time to switch careers? So, which skills do you want to put forward and do something different? But if you don't have a lot of options right now, if you feel like you need to find a job sooner than later, then you might want to stick to those skills that you've already been paid to do because it's a proven entity. So once you have a sense for the skills that you want to put out there, what are your interests? How and where do you want to apply your skills? So let's say you're really techie, but you like the idea of working for a nonprofit. And if you're good at finance, maybe you want something fun like sports or entertainment. So it's not just the field you want to work in, by the way, it can be the type of place you want to work. Do you know if you enjoy working in a small shop or a large company, a startup or a long-standing institution like a university or a hospital? Now, if you're not sure about the type of environment that you thrive in, one tip is to always go back to the best jobs you've ever had, where you thrived, where you did your best. Even if you have to go back to college or a part time job in high school, think of the common elements that made you successful early on. Now, the third circle in our Venn diagram is market. And yes, the reality is a lot of people are being called back to work in the office. So, how far are you willing to drive? If you want to take public transportation, what are your options? And what is the demands for this thing? This can be part of market as well. Because if you're hybrid or remote, that's great. Maybe you do have a lot of options. But you also have to think, how specific, how narrow of a lane have I crafted for myself? And what's the market going to be for that particular role? I'm thinking of a guy I knew of who had 2 different job offers at once, and it was in software. And one was more traditional options, but the second company had a proprietary software. So he wasn't sure he wanted to take that because he wasn't sure that it would make him marketable down the road. So once you put these 3 circles together of your skills, your interests, and your market, you will start to see what's in the middle. Are you a software engineer looking for a job in Sacramento in healthcare? Are you in digital marketing looking to work for small companies and you can work anywhere? You will start to see your options. And then you can focus on the right job title and researching the companies and different types of jobs out there. And yes, now you can develop your profile and your resume that speaks directly to the opening that you're going to be pursuing. Now, you might even want to set up a Google alert for the specific company that you're interested in and update your LinkedIn job search parameters around these things. And don't forget, follow your favorite companies on socials so you can see how they're doing. And that might influence whether or not you spend time pitching them. I just heard of another company laying off and not filling open positions. That's probably not a place I'm going to spend a lot of time on right now. And following them in the news and on socials can help you really be ready for that interview. Because while you might have to really focus on getting a job over the next couple of weeks or months, we still want to try and find a job that is ideal for you. Okay, third strategy, now it's time to sit down and craft your action plan and use whatever your favorite tool is. Maybe you're a Google Sheets type of person, maybe you're a Word table, but work on either a daily schedule or some weekly and monthly targets. And if you are unemployed, you may want to have that daily schedule versus someone who is working and still looking for a job. You might want to set weekly or monthly targets and divide your action plan into different tasks. So researching jobs and companies, applying for the positions. And yes, following up in any interviews you have, we still follow up. And networking has to be an important part of your plan right now. You can message directly with former coworkers, your old boss, anyone that you think can help you. Don't forget, your friends and contacts might not know that you are looking, But they also might not know exactly what you're looking for, or that maybe you're open. Maybe you have decided through this process that you want to move to a different city like Los Angeles, where it's 75 and sunny in February. Now, make sure to ask your friends, how are they doing? Because you never know if they are also looking for a job, or maybe their spouse is. And if that's the case, strengths in numbers. Maybe you guys can, have coffee together and check in on one another. Your schedule will vary depending upon your situation. If you're unemployed already, give yourself a schedule. You'll benefit from that structure. So in the morning, set your plan for the day, work through until you hit lunchtime, give yourself a break, and then get back to it. That structure will really help you. And yes, please do get dressed, leave the house, meet up with people for coffee, or just go to the library for a change of place, some place where you can go with less interruptions, which is really helpful, especially if you have roommates. I worked with a young guy in Seattle, I think it was last year, and he had two roommates. And when I was on the phone with him, he was just kind of moving around different places in the apartment. So try and get yourself out where you can get some quiet time. Now, if you are looking while working, just be really strategic and careful with your time, but you still have to apply, right? So maybe you want to do your applications in the morning, or you want to draft emails and then hit send during lunch. Do your research in the evening or on weekends, but still give yourself a break too, because you don't want burnout. You want to be your best self for these interviews. So you each have to give yourselves a little bit of space and some levity in your life to enjoy something. Is it a comedy show? Is it your favorite Netflix? Is it hanging with the dog or going for a walk in the park? Because we want you to show up positive in your best self. And another tip here, do not stop looking until you have that offer letter in hand. I know that might sound obvious, but it happens. Let me share a story about one of my friends from Chicago. He didn't like his job, and he was really lucky to get interviewed where I think it was his cousin that worked there. The interview went really well. And since he didn't like his job, he quit, and he wasn't looking for anything else because he thought this new job was going to come through, especially since it was a referral, right? Well, it did not come through for maybe 3 to 4 months. And this was really discouraging. He wasn't making any money. He had to borrow money from his dad. And it's a real blow to your self esteem, which you might have already been having anyway if you lost your job. So, in order to stay positive, it's really important to keep looking until you get that offer signed, because you don't want to take the first offer you receive and not negotiate. Because if you do have other irons in the fire, you'll feel more confident and you might hold out for that job because you can. Or you will take it, but you might negotiate either an extra $5,000 or $10,000, some flexibility, a different title. And then you'll be starting that job with more confidence, knowing that this was your choice. And part of your action plan has to be assess what is working, what is not. Has it been 3 or 4 weeks that you haven't heard anything? Because there are different places where your search can stall. Maybe you're not getting any interviews, or you are interviewing, but you aren't getting moved to the next round. So if you aren't getting interviews, is there a disconnect between what you're applying for and that resume you have or the profile that you're using to fill out your applications? Have someone else take a look at your resume, show them the job that you're interested in and how you're applying. It's definitely time for a second opinion. And maybe you need two different versions of your resume. This is really common with people who have 20 years of experience. The language has to be tailored to that opening. So when it does come to someone who has 20 plus years of experience, they are thinking about, are you going to be happy in this role? Are you going to want a management position or a director level position, even though this is an individual contributor opening? So it's okay to have two different versions of your resume. We don't want to take away from your awesome expertise, but you want to make sure that the language applies to that role, whether it's a management position or not. Either way, keep tweaking your resume for the different keywords that are showing up on these openings. Take a look at the AI tools that you might have been using. Maybe the job match platform isn't doing the best job for you here. Make sure you ask friends what they've used and if they really thought it was helpful. Now, if you are getting interviews, but no next steps, it's time to take a look at how you're answering all these questions. Have you been practicing? Have you recorded yourself? And this is where, again, a friend can be helpful. And there's also a lot of online AI tools for interview feedback. Are you using compelling stories to show how you solved a problem? Because at the end of the day, all the employer wants is someone who can solve their problem. So how are you sharing in these interviews that you brought in a project ahead of schedule, that you exceeded your sales goal, that you managed a certain project from A to Z, right? You want to be able to share how you've solved the problem for an employer in the past so they know that you can solve it for them. And yes, there are plenty of career coaches out here. So that is someone who can provide professional expertise, but also give you a fresh perspective. And yes, it is an investment, just like a personal trainer or a financial advisor is. And your career strategist or career coach can help you get to where you want to go faster. So in the end, that saves you money and you're making more money faster because you're out there. So to recap, the first strategy is to look at your finances and compare that to the stage in your career to identify what your options are. How long can you search? Second, I want you to target that job search based on your skills, interests, and your market. And then third, go ahead and develop your action plan that includes assessing what is working and what is not. So I hope this was helpful. There are new episodes coming out every week, so make sure to subscribe on YouTube, Apple, Spotify. You can follow me on LinkedIn, and we also have a new weekly newsletter. And let me know what topics you want to hear. Again, the website is cornerofficelatinas.com. I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening. For more, visit cornerofficelatinas.com, where we give you the framework, inspiration, and support you need to reach and thrive in the corner office. We have some free downloads on the website, where you can also sign up for our e-news, so we can keep you posted on workshops and events coming up that you will not want to miss. That's cornerofficelatinas.com. See you next week.